Taylor. I'm one of the program advisors for the selection, and it is my absolute pleasure to be hosting this press conference for After This Death. Moving through genres, mixing character study with elements of mystical fandom and some profound meditations on heartbreak and grief, After This Death is a second feature from writer-director Lucio Castro and confirms him as a filmmaker with a beguiling command of tone and atmosphere and a deeply cinematic sensibility. We're delighted to have the world premiere at the festival this evening, and it'll be playing as Berlinale special gala at Zoopalast. We have members of the team here. Please join me in welcoming them. Furthest from me, we have actor Philip Ettinger. Welcome. We then have actor Gwendoline Christie. Actor Mia Maestro. And writer-director Lucio Castro. So I get the first question. Lucio, I know that this film has been within you for a very long time. Can you talk a bit about the inspiration and, how you developed the storytelling?
Thanks for having us. We're so excited to be at Berlinale to open the movie tonight. The movie started really with, I like to start writing with some restrictions because then I want to be free when I write. So the restrictions that I had in mind were like this woman in her 40s and the forest, like the mountains, like the woods. And then with those two elements, like character and place, I just started writing and I went where the story took me. I went to, so this one was in the nature, hiking, and then she goes into a cave, and suddenly there's someone in the cave, ends up being a rock star. That totally happened as I was writing. So yeah, it really happened in that way, that very natural way.
And Mia, Isabel is this really complex character who's really at the cusp. She's just trying to work things out about herself. Can you talk about what drew you to her as a character and your way in?
Well, my way in was working with Lucio. He called me to tell me he has this beautiful idea of a film filmed in Woodstock, and that was really my way in. With the years, Isabel developed into this complex, strong character, and I think what made me really drawn to her is like a thesis on female sexuality, embodiment, and also a person that throughout the film has many deaths and has to keep on finding herself and in a way her expression in life. Yeah.
Fantastic. We have a question over here in the center. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Melanie Eckert. I'm a freelance journalist working for Shelved, an online film and series platform. Thank you very much for the film. First of all, I have two questions. One is to you, Lucio Castro. The title, After This Death, suggests existential or metaphysical themes. Is the film a meditation on grief, identity, or something else entirely? And another question, to the whole cast actually, what drew you to the character in After This Death? Was there something in the journey that personally resonated to you? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, the titles are really important for me, and I have them before I start writing, so before what the movies are about. And both the titles for my first feature, End of the Century, and After This Death, were texts that I sent to a friend, like the word After This Death. And it's words that stay with me, and they always are almost like temporary titles that will change eventually. And I write the movies with these guiding lights in mind, and then they become like part of the story that I can't really take them away. It happened with End of the Century and with After This Death. The title is this sort of guiding light in the story that's not a clear direction. It's just something that has this, that affects the story in some ways that I'm not even aware of. And for sure, the movie talks about connection and lasting connections and what happens when somebody goes away, a parent, a lover, a baby. What happens when these people disappear but have an impact in your life. How connection really overlaps or passes living matter and living beings. And music also, it's a way of transporting you through time and memory, because it lasts also, and the connections last for a longer time. So yeah, I did it without any intention, honestly, at first, because titles are just titles, and I sort of need to go and investigate what these stories will take me through this title.
Philip, do you want to start in terms of your connection to the material?
Me? Well, like Mia was saying, work with Lucio. We had a meeting and a really nice conversation, and I liked his brain a lot, and I wanted to be in his world. And also kind of just reading the script and I would say connecting to it on an emotional level instead of such an intellectual level. It kind of felt like poetic to me. And also, I guess, being able to play a musician and learn music, which I didn't really know how to do. Yeah, all those things.
Lucio and I met during the pandemic over a Zoom, which is not the most ideal way to meet anyone for the first time. However, given those slightly artificial circumstances, what I found was a profound connection with a brilliant artistic voice. I'd watched End of a Century, which is Lucio's first film, and I was struck by its extraordinary freshness and originality, and the almost, as Mia says, it has an inimitable grace, Lucio's work, and incredible inventiveness, but a beautiful naturalism throughout. So I really wanted to work with Lucio very badly, and I said, what are you doing next? He said, I'm doing this film that there isn't really a part of you, it's tiny. And I said, could you make it a tiny bit, could you make it bigger? And I didn't think he would, and he did. And I'm very happy to be a part of this journey with Lucio and Mia and Philip, with all of us here, that has resulted in this spectacular moment at the Berlinale. And I love the mystery that unfolds in the work, but also it gives us space as an audience member, which is incredibly refreshing, to fill the gap between the questions the film poses and the answers we might give with the experience of our own lives. And I hope that this is just the beginning of our journey.
I mean, so many things I could say that draw me to Isabel. I think mainly just playing this tremendous events in one person's lives and so many tragedies that actually happened to her in a subtle way, and kind of like with an austere aesthetic of acting was really compelling, just to be able to show the storm within in a very quiet way. And also as we were getting ready for the film, and I was prepping and I was just sharing the story of the script with numerous people, I just got gifted so many incredible stories about women that have gone through different phases in their sexuality through their pregnancy, right? So it just felt like, wow, this film is just gonna bring so many questions. It's just gonna bring all these subjects to the surface, and also just present an enigma, a mystery, and just open conversations. So I think that was one of the main draws.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Hello, thank you for having you here. It's very interesting work. First of all, I'd like to address you a question. As a filmmaker, how much this construction is, if we really want to come deep in the core of the film, a thriller, an emotional thriller, an existential thriller, and generally a thriller about an emotional and existential crisis. And since today, there are other films as well that they're about existential crisis, I would definitely like to listen. Gwendoline, first of all, how can you describe your character's psyche in the film and the whole interaction with the film mysterious atmosphere that also it's being combined by the mysterious and hypnotic music of the film. And Mia, where are you in this film? I mean, where is this character? What tries to find? Is love let's say, something that likes to find a way outside of the tunnel? Or, let's say, tries to avoid something? Please answer me this. Thank you.
I start. Yeah, I mean the movie for me. I mean it is a thriller. It's a musical. It's a drama. It's a romantic comedy. You know, it's all these things. I think it's exciting when a movie has this unstable approach to the genre. In my mind, it's like almost like a poetic thriller in a way. But of course, it has all these elements combined. I like that there's many very dramatic beats that happen in the film, but I like to de-emphasize the drama, so we shy away from or we don't show the very dramatic moments, we show the effect. I think it's more interesting to see a character living through what happened to the aftermath of these very dramatic moments. So that's sort of how I constructed the screenplay and how I work with the actors as well. Just seeing the aftermath of these very dramatic, tragic events that happen in these characters' lives, and also seeing how the characters react to them and exist in this world with this, this impacts. Yeah.
I was intrigued by Alice, who is a rock critic, and as was brought up earlier, very interestingly, critics tend to be quite laid back in their enthusiasm for any kind of band, any particular band. They have their passions, but they're consistent with what they do for a living. But Alice admits to being obsessed with Elliot's band, and the strange connection of Isabel with Elliot and the presence at the concert and the hypnotic effect of the music takes over even the, rock steady critic in it all. It engulfs her too. And we're left in a situation where we don't know whether to believe the very tangible relationship and friendship between Alice and Isabel that I think we want to believe in. We want to believe this incredible bond that they have, where it's unspoken, it's undeniable, they understand each other. Isabel is a mercurial spirit moving through life and different strange journeys according to her desires and her reasoning and her impulses. And Alice is a very tethering, stabilizing presence. And I think what I enjoyed was that as a viewer, we're thrown into conflict about wanting to believe in the goodness and potential of human relationships and the strength of bond between two women, and then the continuing echoing of paranoia in our minds that perhaps there is betrayal. And it really interested me. I spoke to Lucio, asked what the answers were. He wouldn't give them to me. I liked it. And I think it's really exciting as an audience member to continue to think, to be in the presence of a film that it doesn't so much make us work, but inspires us to go on our own mythic journey with the characters.
Who is Isabel? She's a woman in the woods. She's a woman, doing her best to live albeit everything that happens to her. And I see her as this quiet hero, finding her expression in life, in a very small way with very small details. One of my favorite part of the film is when you see close-ups of her putting a little flower in a tiny flower pot, or slowly just watering her plant in her black house in the middle of the woods. She's just living just one day at a time. And I think there's a lot of strength and courage in that.
Yeah. Just to briefly add to that, I mean, each of the 5 main characters have they're hiding something, they're lying, they're lying something, you know, and it's really difficult for an actor to not know the clear motive of the character they're playing, but they each brought their own emotional mystery to the characters, which I thought was really exciting for me as a director. You know, they knew that they were hiding something. They're all hiding something. Like, you know, Ronnie is Phil, Gwendoline, Lee, Rupert, Mia. All the characters there's something that it's very close to their heart that we're not seeing, and they each really work with that in a really interesting way, I thought.
I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about the music and what impact that has, because you do some really exciting things with kind of tone through the score. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, for sure. So the music is divided in the band music, the music from the band, and that we started working years before with our composer. We created a band. We were defining, like, you know, is it like, does it have a drummer or not? No drummer? Is it 3 people? Is it 4? Is it gong? So we really wanted the sound to be like a concise sound. And we wanted the band to be like a band that we both liked. And then once we had the band and the music, we started doing the score. The score, though, came in the edit. I thought actually before we edited the movie that it was just going to be the music from the band. But then the images called for a score. You know, I don't even know why, but they were asking for it. It's a very sensorial movie. It's, you know, it's the way Bart Cordwright, our DP, shot it. It's very, you know, yeah, it's a very immersive visual experience, and it asked for a score. So we worked in a score. What we wanted to do was, my directions were like, I want something classic that has these undertones of like a nerve or something uncomfortable or uncanny underneath. So that's what I told the composers, Robert Lombardo and Yang and Yu, and they, you know, they just created this piece. And the lyrics too. I wrote lyrics for the first time in my life to go with the band, and yeah, it was a really nice experience as well. Yeah.
And what about kind of visually, in terms of the kind of conversations that you were having with your cinematographer, Barton Courtwright? How were you describing the mood and I guess the reference points?
Yeah. We had we shortlisted quite clearly before, like months before. I told him that I wanted a movie that felt still, like the shots very still and with like movement, but the movement had an intrinsic quietness to them. So when the camera moves, it moves almost like roaring to me. You know, it's like it's not like a fast move or like a big. You know, it's like the movements have this sort of like, you know, gravitas or power or something that feels still quiet in the movement. I like that to de-emphasize again the dramatic beats. It was nice to have a sort of like a still, because all the things that these characters go through. I like this idea of like having something that felt still, you know, in a way it's framed and shot, and let the characters, like for example, the movie, you know, the title starts. And all the credits and styles start before the movie happens. I wanted the movie started to just be clean movie and clean visual storytelling with no interruptions. You know, I just like that idea for the story to unravel in that way.
I wanted to ask about, maybe just expand on something that Gwendoline said about obsession, and the nature of obsession is such a key part. You've got a kind of cult-like figure. It's unclear how much he invites or is ambivalent towards his fandoms. What drew you to that as a theme?
Yeah. I mean, I'm guided by things that I'm curious about or I don't know much about. I've always been like, you know, I love the idea of a fan and someone obsessed with someone. That adoration, it's almost like the true pure love, because there's nothing back. You know, you just love someone fully that maybe doesn't even know you. And I think there's something really interesting in that, and also maybe dangerous, of course. And I wanted to explore that in the movie, and also these fans not only like start like, you know, being part of her life in a really, you know, interesting way, but also she's tapping into something that she didn't know existed and was around her. Like maybe even her best friend is one of them, you know. So I love that idea of like something that's like in the air, and she sort of taps into something that has all these, you know, connotations. But yeah, the idea of like the fan, to me, the movie also talks about love in many different ways, and this idea of like pure love, almost religious love, it's something that these group of fans have for this person. You know?
Philip, I just wanted to ask about the performance, because you obviously, I mean, you said you were learning music as part of the role, and you actually get to, we get to see the band, and there's like a real authenticity to that interaction with audience members. Can you talk about the experience of performance that you had in this film?
Yeah. Well, it's cool too because there's not too many scenes with me and Lee, but also so much can be told in a relationship between how people play music together. Also, it was just damn cool to like not be a musician and to play like it was like 3 performances for like a bunch of extras. That feels cool. Like it's a cool actor moment. I don't know. So much. Again, like so much can be shared in a room with people energetically in a space of performance. And also, I mean, the experience was just so cool, even just going to Rob's little basement studio and practicing like every week. And I felt closer to the movie and to Lucio and what he was trying to say. And also, it just connects. I don't know, music connects.
Yeah, and also because we are thrown into the relationship, him and and Elliot. It's amazing that he really was able to we get that intimacy right away, between the two of them, with just a few scenes. Even there are just a few moments that you know everything about them. And as Phil said, he really practiced, playing instruments, and he really wanted to get the songs right. Even though of course he was playback in the concert. So yeah, it was a really nice level of improvement.
And Mia, you've mentioned before that there are elements in the film that explore female sexuality kind of during pregnancy, which is something we don't often get to see much of. Yeah, I'm wondering if you can just expand on that in terms of, maybe not a responsibility to representation, but yeah, I guess how it was to be playful on screen in that way.
I think sexuality is so personal, and there's sexuality for every person on earth. So it's always, I always try not to generalize, but as I was saying before, I was just gifted all these incredible stories of all these different women, during their pregnancy and what had happened with their bodies and their sexuality, with their partners, with lovers that they have chosen, with, this incredible rise of hormones that only women get to feel, which is such an incredible rite of passage, transformation. So I felt just happy to be able to portray this, and also to portray it with such an incredible actor as Lee Pace, who's a dear friend, who I felt so comfortable with, and we have so much connectivity and just ease, true ease, and beyond the sexuality, I think it's an exploration of just the kinetic, the sensual, with feet, with voice, with MDR, with the sound of someone's voice and what it can create in someone else's psyche. So there's so many subtleties of all this throughout the film. So that was one journey for me in the film. Besides, the actual arc of Isabel and everything that happens to her, there was a parallel journey on the sensual, that it's sexual, but also beyond the sexual, right? It's just about the body, and the body interacting with space and interacting with nature, interacting with, her best friend, space within the house. Yeah, and I feel because Lucio and I have such a long-standing friendship, we had that code, we kind of understood that's what we wanted to do within the film. So I felt directed this way, many ways, and the times that I would forget about it, Lucio would always bring me back to this.
Okay, I think we have one last question over here.
Thank you again. Let's say that this film is also about identity. How much identity can absorb all the crucial emotions of a character? This is a question that can be addressed to all of you in this board. You as a filmmaker, and you are, as actors that try to imitate inside their own identities, the identity of a role. So I would definitely like to have your reflections on the subject of identity and how much somebody can be absorbed inside it. Thank you.
I mean, to me, that's the most exciting thing as a director. I'd also be an animator, where you can just make these characters do exactly what I want. But as a director, you write words, and then you invite people to play these roles, and it becomes something widely different and usually way more interesting than what you had in mind. And they bring that identity, and that's in that mix, the character is born, in the actor and the character you wrote. I think that working with amazing actors, you're expanding what you've written. They take these lines. The characters are even if we talk, of course, and there's some descriptions. Really, it's their interpretation of the character which brings this double identity. And I think that to me is the most exciting. The first time I saw Lee perform Elliot, I was actually very surprised. It was very different from what I had in my mind for many years. But he brought it to a different place that was really exciting for me. It was just like at first I was like, wait, this is very different, but then I really embraced it, and it's great. Gwendoline too, it's like, their friendship at first, I was like, will people believe this friendship? But then I saw them, and right away they were friends. I don't know, it's all these things that actors really like make them. I mean, as a director, it's really exciting because my work is with them, and after the story it's written, so it's like seeing that come alive it's really exciting, really fun.
Identity, it's a funny one, isn't it, really? I think we spend a lifetime trying to define exactly who it is we are, only to slowly realize that there appears to be only questions. There are seemingly no answers at all. And I think that sort of feeling that I think progresses throughout one's life is something that occurs in the film of, rather than serving up a narrative with answers and it's being delivered to us and this is what the story is and how we are to think, that we respond to this film very much as individuals. And consequently, we tell our own story. We impose something of our own identity onto the journey of the characters. And we start to see something within the different characters. They may be completely different from us, but something of our own desire or dissatisfaction with life or the intensity of relationships. And as an actor, that is my great joy, is to lose whatever my identity is, which I've made no kind of judgments yet, unable to, but to immerse myself in someone else entirely. But I love that in a world that is so filled with information, and these are the answers, and let me go to my phone and give you the answer, and I can't quite remember that actually this is the answer, that we have the romance of a story, and that gives us some space to be ourselves and to think more deeply about who we might be and who we might want and not want to be.
I feel for Isabel, it's like a shedding of identities throughout the film, just letting all the robes she has on, just putting them down. When Lucio and I were teenagers and living in Buenos Aires, Lucio was doing a beautiful art workshop with this incredible artist called Mirta Dermisage. And one day they did a ceramic class, and he brought me this beautiful piece that he had made, which was a Minotauro. I often thought about that. I don't think I ever told you throughout the film that Isabel, being this hybrid of a beautiful beast, kind of lost in this maze, trying to maybe find her identity, but ultimately just letting it all go.
Well, it's an extraordinary film. We're so excited to have it in the festival. Please join me in thanking the filmmakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.